Each town had chosen a contestant to represent them. Like Miss Grove Park was Christy Jo Gump, and Miss Cross Creek, well, she was Sally Jo Gump. Now, they being sisters was bad enough, but when their mother, Dixie Lee, entered and won Miss Rochelle contest, that set off a rumpus like you never heard in these parts. Seems the rules to enter the contest only said single and not never been married. And seeing that no self-respectable woman in these parts had ever been divorced, well, that's how Dixie Lee got into the contest. It was threats from her brother, Sheriff Randy. The beauty contest was about to begin. Mr. Gary was real pleased that he had gotten the most well-known gentlemen in the area to be the judges. First of all, there was Mayor Michael Hogg of Hawthorne. Not only was he the mayor of the biggest town near the springs, but he believed if he could get the new airport planned for some small town named Orlando changed up to Hawthorne, that he and Mr. Gary could make this area the biggest tourist attraction in Florida. Now, the second judge was Cooter Mixon. Now, Cooter, he'd been delivering the mail in these parts for 30 years. In the old days, they gave Cooter a horse and buggy, and then later a truck for delivering the mail, but Cooter refused to use either. He said, as long as God gives you legs, then you should use them. Now, Cooter had 20 square miles to cover, so from dawn until the night, you could see old Cooter delivering mail. Now, there were complaints from some of the ladies in the area that old Cooter was a peeping Tom. But Cooter claimed he was just passing their windows on his way to delivering the mail. Wasn't until years later that I noticed that a lot of those young'uns on Cooter's route sure looked like a lot like old Cooter. Now, the third judge was Bubba Fields. Now, some folks thought of Bubba as just a good old boy, but I knew Bubba for the smart fella he was. Now, automobiles were getting popular in 1935, and with them came some problems. So what old Bubba would do is hitch up 2 horses to a wagon, then he'd go up and down the roads and the orange groves and every place day and night till he found someone whose Ford had petered out, and he would pull them wherever they needed for repairs. He was also paid a little extra to keep his mouth shut concerning who was parked in what young lady was in, and when after an evening of smooching in some orange grove they found their auto wouldn't start. The next judge was the young Judge Doc Smith, who had come here from someplace up north, I think somewhere around Tallahassee. Most folks said they weren't going to any foreign doctor. If old vet Jenkins was good enough for cows and horses, he was sure good enough for them. So the young doc's only patient was Christy Jo Gump, Miss Pine Grove. Seeing everyone knew they had been courting, they figured she was a shoo-in to win the beauty contest. Of course, I knew that Sally Jo, Miss Cross Creek, had been seeing Mayor Hogg. Now, Bubba Fields told me that he had to pull the mayor's car out of the creek after Sally Jo hit the gears, hopping over the seat to get into the back. It was going to be a real interesting thing, this here beauty contest. So, Mr. Gary finished about the judges and the contest was about to start. Now, the rules were, the ladies were to walk around the springs, and the judges would look them over and then vote to see who won. Well, folks, you have never seen such a fight in all your life. Those girls were trying to outdo their mama, and this is pretty hard to do. They started pushing and shoving, and Miss Nixie really almost ended up going right into that pool. Tommy Bob and his church group start singing, "Bringing in the Sheaves." And Sheriff Randy threatens to shoot them if they don't stop. Now, the reporters were writing down all of these goings-ons. when Mr. Gary announces the judges' decisions. The winner is Miss Dixie Lee.
Yay!
Now those girls of hers having a hissy fit. Boy, are they mad. They claim their uncle, Sheriff Randy, once again paid off the judges, or better yet, probably threatened them too. Mr. Gary didn't pay them no mind and crowns Dixie Lee the first ever Miss Magnesia Springs. Well, Miss Dixie starts her winter's walk around the springs when all of a sudden, couldn't believe it, something black and something slimy rose up out of the water, climbed up on the side of the pool, grabbed Miss Dixie, and carried her off right down into the The monster and the beauty queen Dixie Lee were gone. It looked like that medicine man was right. There was a monster in Magnesia Springs. And all the testimonials to it, all the healing powers, all the advertising in the world wouldn't bring the people back. And worse yet, it all happened right before the eyes of the reporters from the Gainesville Sun and the Ocala Star Banner.